Good morning, Tom.
Morning, Tim. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Hanging in there, Hoss. Another day, another dollar, right?
Yeah, I hear you there.
So how are things going with the shop?
Oh, we're surviving, man. COVID has been, I should say, government restrictions have been tough. COVID hasn't been quite as tough.
Got it. Understood.
But we're healthy. We actually just had our second child last month. No,
Yay!
2 months ago now.
Yay! Life is different now, isn't it? One was one thing, now you got two. It's like,
Yeah, she's not too bad just yet, but I can see it, the writing on the wall, right?
absolutely. But you wouldn't have it any other way. That's the joys of being a parent.
Yeah, that's true. It's crazy, crazy times.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So Don, they even pick on you in the trail authority meetings. Isn't that amazing?
I can't say any more, Dusty.
Silence is golden.
Well, he went through the whole meeting, didn't say anything. Jim Kane couldn't let that happen. He had to call him out.
The only thing I could think of was to say "Go Blue" for Jim.
Trying to change all our signs to green. He's not doing that.
Yeah, when we did the signage project on the trail, and we consulted with all the townships, and Jim said, "Well, I really would prefer green and white, but I'll go with blue."
You have to fight it.
Is it off there completely?
There's no Matheny in any of our phones, even on our iPad.
Am I still in groups?
You're just exactly there. You're the same as me.
Is that the mayor as I live and breathe?
Yes, we got home at 11 o'clock last night. I am dead.
You're
But
kidding.
Gordon, I will give you a call. My phone decided to die Friday and I had to get a new phone. And because I was in the middle of nowhere and not on a good internet connection, I had lost all my contacts. They couldn't transfer over a bunch of stuff to my phone. I got all my voicemails at like 11 o'clock last night. My phone started blowing up when I got home and got on Wi-Fi. So Yes, I am exhausted. That's how I spent my birthday yesterday, driving cross country after moving 2 kids cross country all weekend. So, yeah.
I thought you got home over the weekend, so
No, we had to move another kid Monday, and then we left from Nebraska yesterday morning. So,
all right, well, I'll talk to you later.
yeah, I got ya. Sorry.
Bye. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Mayor.
Thank you.
Oh, happy birthday.
Ah,
Thanks.
if we were in Kiwanis, we'd sing a song to you, but no, this is the DDA. All right, it is 8 a.m. It is May 12th, 2021. Welcome to the Downtown Development Authority of the City of Adrian, and I welcome you all. Is Meredith with us? I don't see it, I'm sure.
That's why.
There she is. So Meredith, can you see everyone for roll call?
I believe so. I'm still working on it. I'll let you know if I have any
All right.
problems.
All right. All right, in front of each of you, you have the agenda for today, and if anybody wants to add anything to the agenda today, the time to do it.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to add one item if possible.
Okay.
Possible discussion on a vacant property at the intersection of Winter and Maumee.
I can't spell. All right, Winter and Maumee. All right, that'll be in your section there. Any other additions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda with the addition of vacant property on Winter and Maumee.
So moved.
There's been a motion. Second by who?
Mark.
Mark. All right, there's been a motion and support. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Excellent. We will move forward then. All right, Michelle, do any updates on First Fridays and events that are coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, First Friday went really well for May. The car show was a little late, but I think that was due to the rain that occurred just before 5 o'clock that day or before 4 o'clock. But we still had 40 cars, so South Main was full. And we had a few on West Maumee, but downtown was packed. I don't know if any of you were down there. I know a couple of you were, but it was busy. Every place I poked my head in was just full of people. So that was great to see. June, we expect to be even bigger. The theme for that event is Hot Wheels, and we expect a really good turnout for the car show. We're also going to have one of our first live remotes that day from 3 to 5. So WLEN will be down at the Four Corners, and we will have 2 bands instead of 1. And we may also potentially close Main Street all the way down to Front, which we don't normally do, but Mannequin Smith is going to have their grand opening, and they've requested that we close that because they'd like to do some activities in the street. So we're working on that as well.
Awesome. That's great. Love to see them get involved like that. So that'll be great. Any questions for Michelle on that? So Hot Wheels is next, right? Big party, June. 2
Be a good
bands and live remote. Excellent. All right. Thank you, Michelle. All right. I'm going to hand over to you, Mark. You have 2 things to talk about. First thing being the food truck ordinance. You want to make some comments on that?
Yes, I believe we have on this group, Tom Allure, who's an entrepreneur instructor at Adrian Public Schools and happens to operate a food truck. And the reason I asked Mr. Chair to have this on the agenda, I know the city is working very hard on that ordinance at this time. And, you know, those of us who've been looking at the Main Street programs around Michigan have noticed how important the food trucks are to these progressive communities that are really revitalizing their downtowns. And so the reason I put it on there was that I think it's important that the DDA team interfaces with the city on these kind of important decisions. And I know there's been some communication, but you know, if you look at our last few agendas, you won't see that on there. So I'm really just calling us to be aware and to be sure that we're partnering with the city in, having a subcommittee that's operating, working on this, looking at best practices, looking at the communities that are really successful. We have a community right here in Lenawee County, Tecumseh. They've been, doing food trucks for years and have been very successful. So I know the city is doing a great job working on it. My point of bringing this up is that the DDA ought to be involved in those kind of decisions. So I think that we need to be more aware and more interactive with the city when these kind of issues come up. It's our obligation to partner with the city and not leave it all in their lap. But with that, I'd like to have Tom give us a few comments from his perspective as a food truck operator. Tom?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. As Mark said, I teach over at the high school and I teach entrepreneurship. My wife and I recently purchased a brand new food truck. And so we've been operating or going to operate in Tecumseh. We're going to their farmers market. We are operating in Saline. We're going to have operations in Brooklyn and events in Cement City and events in Onstead, Manchester. And I haven't said Adrian yet. And Adrian's the largest city in Lenawee County. And yet I have trouble getting my trailer, my food truck, into working within the city limits. And so as an entrepreneur, as somebody who teaches kids that there are other options besides college, I find it interesting that there are less opportunities. And so Mark and I, we've worked together in the past, and I just would encourage you guys to consider that multiple cities and multiple areas are adding food truck courts. They're a way to generate people to downtown businesses, and they're a way to generate interest in surrounding areas. And so I would encourage Adrian to look at what options they have. We want to be downtown. We want to help. We want to employ. I have high school students that want to work for me. And so I guess I'm just asking to be a part of, if possible, any discussions in setting an ordinance that would allow us to come downtown.
Great, Tom. Thank you for that comment. I'd like to, open it up to other DDA members to comment at this time, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, if there are any comments. But again, my point is that it's our obligation to partner with the city and provide value in the process of decision-making about this. And I don't think that we've done that.
Well, Mark, thank you for that. I will say that there has been a lot of discussion at the commission level, a lot of work that's been done. And then maybe before we get started, maybe asking questions. But Greg, could you give us a little update in the process of where we stand with the ordinance? And is there anything we could help with as a DDA to help with the process?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have the draft ordinance, the first reading version of the ordinance on the agenda for next Monday. So that'll be introduction of the ordinance. And then what we anticipate is that second reading would follow up at the first meeting in June. And with second reading, we hope to be in a position, the way the ordinance works is that it establishes the basic authority for the city to allow food trucks on public property. We're going to be doing a companion ordinance amendment as it relates to the zoning ordinance to provide that opportunity for private property. That currently exists, but it's very cumbersome. The way it works right now, it has to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So we're going to streamline that process. The zoning ordinance amendment will take a little longer because it has to go to the Planning Commission as well. So we're hoping that, again, on Monday night, the City Commission will initiate that text amendment to the zoning ordinance so we can get that in the works. The way the ordinance for public property works is that it is to be accompanied by a map and fee structure that are set by resolution. And it's really the map that is sort of the key policy level decision as it relates to that. And so, as you note, some of those discussions have happened with City Commission at pre-meetings. already. The mayor and I have not talked about the agenda for next Monday yet, but I anticipate we'll do that today. And we may have further discussion on pre-meeting next Monday night about that particular issue. There has been some difference of opinion amongst commissioners as to whether or not food trucks are appropriate downtown, at least at this time where restaurants aren't at full capacity. I mean, I shared with commissioners last time the fact that, my research going back to when I was planning consultant is that food trucks don't compete with sit-down restaurants. But that's a hard thing for people to accept. And so, as I say, there's some difference of opinion. And I think where DDA's voice could be particularly useful is expressing its opinion as it relates to whether or not they're appropriate downtown. I had suggested a sort of a introductory approach to that. So the map becomes very flexible since it is set by resolution. And I suggested an introductory approach whereby we would allow them at all our public parks, which have parking lots. And then also at the farmers market downtown, sort of as a first step, I can envision ultimately allowing them in sort of in the periphery of our downtown lots. Obviously, I don't think anybody thinks they should be parked on Main Street or Maumee Street, but in the back where people are parking, what you tend to find with them is that they, to the degree they compete with brick and mortar businesses at all, they compete with fast food. And so maybe people, when they're going back to their car, maybe they'll pick up something as opposed to stopping at McDonald's, something like that. And so it might make sense for them to be in a location like that. But that's sort of the scheduled things. As I say, to be determined if it's going to be on the pre-meeting agenda, but I think it probably will, either Monday night or first meeting in June or both, to discuss that location issue further. And DDA's input would be particularly useful as it relates to that.
Greg, let's say, go ahead.
Well, what I was also going to say to that is where the DDA could really be, very instrumental in this is just like we did with the parklets, where we, sent a small core group out and, talk to all the business owners. Maybe that's what we need, a few people going out and talking from the DDA, talking to the restaurant owners, because, as you can see, we typically do not have any restaurant owners that are downtown restaurant owners that are on here most times. And I think that communication is very vital with those restaurant owners and opening that door of communication and discussing this with them, just like we did with the parklets. And, we were able to get their input, and then they felt heard, and then they felt a part of that process, and their input was very valuable. So I guess that, in my opinion, that is one way we really could at least get, especially on location. I just know that there is high concern from at least a couple of restaurant owners downtown of the food trucks. And, that those few have reached out to some of the commissioners and myself with those concerns. And, but I also just think they a lot of times don't feel like their voice is being heard necessarily, maybe with the DDA, because they're not actively involved, within the DDA. So that's just another way that would really be instrumental in helping this process.
Thank you,
So
Mayor.
Greg, can you share that information with Dusty and let him share that as it comes up, so that he can be a good partner with you on?
Tom, could I ask you directly, what are these other areas doing to help you out with, getting your truck in their communities?
I'll be honest with you. It seems like they've bent over backwards to bring us in. I was really worried about working in Saline, for example. As you well know, it's a quote unquote suburb of Ann Arbor in Washtenaw County. We're at the Baker's Nook food court, and I was worried that there was going to be resistance. And I was met with open arms from their clerk, and she walked me through the process, connected me with a member from the Washtenaw Health Department and how I could get the permit. if you will, and access. So it was very enlightening and encouraging. And same thing with Tecumseh. I'm at their farmers market, and we're going to be doing several other events. And once again, I was worried about the skepticism, Tim, and it just seemed like that they wanted the process to go smoothly. They had, a couple basic questions about what we were doing. You had to show them the operations and what we're selling, but it was very encouraging to. Resistance isn't the right word, but just that the process was a lot easier than I thought and was worried about. And so I was excited. Again, we're brand new to this in the sense of we bought it last year, but it seems that the people that we've talked to want us to be a part of what they're having, what the events are, because again, it does draw business. As you said, Greg, we are not competing directly with brick and mortar. We're our own segment, if you will, and study after study has shown that. So I've been very happy. Like I said, I was really worried about Washtenaw County, and my worries have been allayed.
Thanks, Tom. I would like to see us, be in that same capacity where we were a little more welcoming. But thank you, Tom.
Margaret, did you have something?
Yeah, I did. I think that timing is everything. And I think that coming out of COVID, our restaurateurs may be a bit more sensitive to the issue right now. I know that one restaurant in Adrian even sought out and went to the investment of securing a food truck to supplement their restaurant during the COVID situation. So I certainly think that might be one restaurateur who would have some insight on how that has helped or not aided in his business. But I think that they are two very different, types of businesses. And somebody mentioned, I think it might've been the mayor, that they looked at it as even a probationary period. I think that you would find that these other communities have been very successful in it, and that their experience in and of itself might support and supplement our even bothering with a probationary period, and might be a lesson in and of itself that the city could look to for an experience and move forward with it. I don't know how long the city has been dealing with it. I don't know if Mr. Elliott or the mayor could speak to that, but how long has it been on the table with the city?
So I think we've talked about it at the last two pre-meetings. The ordinance itself was drafted back when Administrator Byrd was here. I had drafted that, and it ended up getting sidetracked during the pandemic, as you can imagine. But it's been in the works for a while, and historically, I think in general, food trucks have been sort of a guerrilla activity, and they flew under the radar until they reached a level where that wasn't possible anymore. And that was certainly true in the city as well. I mean, they have been at special events. They've been at Our Delicious. There's been a hot dog cart, which is technically the same thing at First Fridays in the past. But once you start, making them right with the law, as you might say, then you have to have a policy that applies equally to everyone in each circumstance. And so that's the process we're in right now, is trying to figure out what that policy should be.
So I can remember you guys engaged me more than a year ago on this, and so they have Mark engaged me, and we talked about it at length. And I think the mayor's correct that the communication is the key to success on this one. When Tom says that there's study after study, there's example after example, there's time after time that we should be bringing this information in. There's no doubt there's a COVID overhang that gives us all a little fear, especially those restaurants. So it is a sort of timing thing as well. But Greg, if you'd elaborate on the process at city commission level, as we talk about first ordinance readings and second ordinances and the votes that can take place thereof, so that we know where we are on that timeline and how involved we should be.
Yeah, so it's 2 readings to adopt the ordinance. As I say, the ordinance is the basic structure that makes it, that provides for the process for allowing them on public property, which is most of the issue, not all of the issue. And we hope so. Introduction will be, I anticipate, next Monday night. That if you've ever watched us do an introduction to an ordinance, that goes pretty quickly and there's not much discussion on that. The real adoption will take place, as I anticipated, on June 7th. And as I say, I hope we're in a position at that time to adopt a map as well that will define where the food trucks would be allowed on public property. Running parallel to that or trailing slightly behind it will be the amendments to the zoning ordinance that will allow for food trucks to be parked on private property, essentially in non-residential districts. And that'll probably end up taking, it depends on whether we can get the public hearing on the planning commission's meeting in June. I don't know whether the timing will allow for that. The newspaper has gotten really difficult in terms of how much lead time they need for public notices anymore, but that would be our goal, is to get a recommendation from the planning commission in June and then have it back to the city commission, so that will be in effect in July. But like I said, that's somewhat dependent on timing.
So Mark, way I look at this then is that the first reading is the point on these upcoming study sessions is where we need to have a committee or somebody involved right there, because then the finalization of that map is going to start showing up. We're going to start seeing the ordinance and the zoning changes, and we're going to have to read in. So Greg, I know there's some unfinished product here. Can you pass along what you have so that I can share it with committee and see if we can come up with a stance for the DDA as it relates to this?
Sure, I will send you what we put in the packet tomorrow.
Excellent. Tom, we appreciate your involvement as well. You give us the right inside view on how this works, and so we love your involvement. We love people to join committees, and so if I could have a show of hands that would like to work on this with us, I would like to form a committee. So Tom, Mark, will you be on there for me? Yep. Excellent. Anyone else? I can't see real good.
Okay.
If not, we'll run with it, the 3 of us, but let's dig in. I'll get the information to everyone if you guys have ideas and thoughts. And again, let's go back and see that these communities that have done this successful and how they've worked through this, because I'm sure every one of them was met with fear by the restaurants and they overcame those objections.
Dusty, this is Jerry. Is it important for us to offer some support to the committee that as a DDA at this moment, we want to move forward in a positive way, so that I don't know exactly how to word that, but it feels like if you need to get something to the commission in the next couple of weeks before our next meeting, you want to hear that the DDA endorses this in spirit anyway, or something.
Yeah, I agree. And we could probably even move right now to support it, Jerry.
Yeah, if you move, I'll support, because I don't know what to say.
I would move that the committee that you just recognized move so in a positive way so as to demonstrate to the city that the DDA supports the project. Supports the city in hold on, that the DDA put together a plan that demonstrates to the city that we support the city authorizing the food trucks, or putting together a plan that permits the food trucks to operate in the city of Adrian. And that doesn't tell them how to do it or what to do, but it says to work out a plan that allows it. Does that make sense?
I think we should add something in regards to making sure that we are working with our downtown businesses as well in supporting of the food truck project.
So that they work out a plan that collaborates with the
town business.
I
downtown.
think the members of the DDA,
Yeah.
right? Because they're
All
all
right,
members.
so I hear him saying more than that. Okay, we want to be really careful not to, it's not our job to tell the city what to do. And we really want to encourage a collaboration with all businesses that would be affected by the food trucks in the community, correct?
Sounds close enough.
Okay, so it would seem to me that we would say that the committee recognized by the chair
Can I read back what I've got and see if I'm close?
Sure.
Motion to form a committee, motion that the DDA form a committee to demonstrate the DDA board support for the city to collaborate with restaurant owners and members of the DDA and put together a plan for food trucks to operate within the city of Adrian.
Here, here.
Here, here. Is that a motion, Margaret? It sounded good.
Did that include that? Does that recognize meeting the needs of all businesses in the community?
I have collaborate with restaurant owners and members of the DDA.
Yep, we got it.
We
Okay.
would
as long as
include
it's
all the
that.
businesses in that footprint.
Yeah, I think that's great.
And so that's a motion by Noe, support by Ryder.
I like it.
Got it.
All right, any further discussion? We have a motion and support. If none, all those in favor of the motion and the support indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Is a seed? Oh, go ahead.
Is the city good with that, Greg? Did that sound good enough for now? Because we have 30 days out.
Yeah, no, I'll share that with the commission.
Excellent.
And that's just helpful, I think, in general too, Dusty, is just that there's a public perception that the downtown's not wanting them, that the Adrian's being
Right.
very anti-food truck, and that is definitely, and my phone's been blowing up. I was gone this weekend, but returned, my cell phone died. Maybe that was meant to be. Returned to all these messages about it. So, it is,
really?
yes, it is really an urgent matter, I do feel. And I just feel that perception's out there. So I think the more that we can show that, no, that's not the perception. Let's just change that. And let's show there is support, and the DDA is wanting this to move forward as well. I just think that's helpful,
Right.
because I do think that is definitely out there, that downtown doesn't want us, so that's just the feedback I have received. So thank you.
Yeah, as long as we're not sending a message that says that we're knocking heads on this. I think that's really important, that we're in sync with one another.
Well, the old saying constantly comes back, is the more logs in the fire burns brighter. So I believe that to be true. I think there's probably studies that prove it. And I think that's the spirit behind it all. So thank you for that great discussion. Thank you for that work. And Tom, thank you for being on the committee. We'll do some good homework here and see if we can help the commission move this along. Thank you. All right, Mark, you're on stage again with the vacant property on Winter and Maumee.
Dusty, do we need to finish the vote for the previous item?
Did we vote aye? Didn't we all? We had support, didn't we?
Oh,
Mark?
we did all in favor. We didn't. I was in favor. I didn't hear us do all not in favor. So just wanted to make
Oh,
sure
I'm
we're
sorry.
crossing our legal T's there.
Okay, all those not in favor indicate by saying aye. And the abstentions, I'll take it all away with the rules. All right, the motion passes with unanimous vote. Thank you, Drake. I get moving fast sometimes here. So Mark Murray, this is a brand new idea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the overriding idea is that in the work that we've done with Main Street, looking around at these other communities, I've been stunningly impressed by how well the DDA or Main Street collaborates with the city. And they really operate in a smooth partnership way, realizing that the city has the authority and the DDA has responsibility for some of the aspects that they do. And there's two different pots. Yet when you look at other communities like Tecumseh or other Main Street programs, you really do see that cooperation. So I think if anything, I'm really just encouraging us to be sure that we're doing everything in our power to collaborate ahead of time and continue to ask what things should we be doing that we're not doing, and how does that involve the DDA working with the city on any of the experiments that we might be looking at. And so this is an experiment. We have a piece of property that's in the DDA district. It's located on the corner of Winter Street and Maumee. It had 2 properties on it that were taken down. The county is involved with that because they had to bear the cost of the building removal. The property is for sale now. It's in the DDA district. It is my belief that the DDA ought to be aware of these kind of things that happen in our district, and we should have a small committee that we put together to investigate what's going on with that and then bring that information back to the DDA. And I'd like to propose, if I may, that we have a small committee, and I'd like to suggest Dusty and Margaret, myself, to do some investigation, report back to the DDA board as to what the situation is with that, and if there's any interest on the DDA's part of being involved in that process.
All right, so Mark is suggesting that I guess it's in the land bank is where I'm thinking it is, unless anybody has any information different than that.
That's correct.
Yeah. And so I'd heard rumors that it had been sold and different things, but I guess it still stands in the land bank at this time.
No, Dusty, Mark and I talked as of yesterday, and I checked, it's still in the land bank.
Yeah, it is.
Still in the land bank. All right, so it really is just to get us the inertia of going and speaking to Marty and everybody else to see what the cost of such a thing would be and whether or not it'd be even an option for the DDA. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's no proposal to do anything other than investigate, but we owe it to the DDA and to the city to investigate and be the first one to say no if it's not something that we might look at.
Excellent. Does anybody have an issue with us doing that investigation?
I would support.
There is support. All right, well, I guess I could take a motion here and just be technical. So there's a motion to support this committee.
So move.
Mark, there's support. Did you catch who that was, Meredith?
Who was that, Margaret?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't do discussion. Drake, you
Yes.
gotta get on me here.
Yeah. So, what are we really investigating is if the DDA wants to take on the project with that piece of property, or is this, what are we reporting back to the DDA?
So we are going to set up a meeting with the people that have control over the property to understand what they want to do with the property, to see if it's within the mission of our DDA. I think, when we're looking at our backyard, we have to do our best to be proactive to understand what's going on and what our options are. One way or the other, that'll end up in our backyard anyway. So we should be, a group that proactively investigates and then reports back to the DDA, so everybody on the board knows what's happening with that piece of property.
Just that one piece of property, not any of the other properties that are available?
It could be other
Then,
pieces of property. I think that it could be if somebody else.
I think it would be good for the DDA to have a committee to look at all those properties. At this
Okay.
point, I'm asking for proposal from the board for this particular property.
Okay.
Again, we're not committing to anything as far as ownership or anything of the nature, but we need to understand the entire issue and see if there's any types of partnerships or anything that could come about that makes sure that that piece of land has got a great steward and that we're moving forward in the right direction. So we just don't want to make any conclusions today, but I think we can do some homework and bring it back to you.
Okay.
So I have a motion on the table to form a committee to investigate and help determine what the DDA's options are regarding the vacant property at Winter and Maumee Streets.
Excellent. There's been a motion and support, and I'll slow down here. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same? All right, we'll move forward with that committee and we should have something to you by the next meeting. Mark, thank you for those 2 items. I appreciate it. And because I think Jerry's going, has to probably leave a little early, Brad, I'm going to shift you down below her just real quick and let Jerry give us an update on spring, summer decorations and parklets, if that's all right with everyone.
Yes, thank you for that. So the parklet final design is now with Keith Holloway, the tech director at the Croswell, to get pricing. He is concerned about the availability of material. As probably most of you know, lots of things, including lumber, are delayed and quite expensive these days, but hope to have pricing the early part of next week. Goal to have the parklets in place by mid-June. So that's the one in front of the Buzz Cafe in Mammoth and the one in front of Chalmers. So excited about that. Just feels like it's a little slow moving at some times, but I guess that's how it goes in life. Spring and summer decorations are, I talked with Abby a couple of weeks ago at Carpenter. Things seem to be moving forward. We will be looking for a date, probably depending on weather, probably the early part of July, to do a little spruce up and cleanup of the pots that get put out. So you can look for that date coming soon. And just a quick thank you to everybody from the DDA that joined us last Thursday in Farvers. We had a nice turnout and just great conversation, and always good to see people. So thank you for that. Any questions for me?
Jerry, I want to make a comment real quick. Okay, Martha Churchill is obviously now the reporting that's coming out of Monroe for the Telegram, and she did a little article with you and I. She covered a subject about funding and the like. At the early stages of this, there was some private funding that had made itself available, as well as we may have picked up some of that in partnership. So I'm gonna today we're not going to have clarity so much on that until you get the pricing on how all this works. But I do want to know, are we still going to work back on that, and where do we stand?
Yeah, so I know, I guess really once we have the pricing in place, I think Dusty, you and I need to circle up on what kind of funding is available. It feels kind of impossible to know what we're talking about until we get some more research back from Keith Holloway. We did the size of the parklets that we're talking about is 24 feet long by 7 feet wide. So it's not nearly the length of 2 full parking spaces. It seems plenty long as we looked at what other places have done, and putting a flower pot or curb on each end of it to for safety, and still staying within that 2 parking space footprint. And also, you know, it's not an elaborate design. You certainly can get extremely decorative. You know, the idea of moving this project forward over the next 2 or 3 years, if this year is well received, I think could involve a landscape architect or other designer to really, I think we have a nice looking design, but it's pretty straightforward in trying to keep the costs down and focus on some green space with nice seating in the downtown.
Excellent. So then the next meeting of the DDA will be enough time to approve whatever happens from that, or do we need to begin construction sooner than that?
I would probably like to begin construction sooner than that, but I understand, you know, if you need me to wait, we can wait.
Well, I just think we need to know what we would appropriate, if anything, to that. And they would have to be a vote of the board. And since we won't know that until we have details, it may have to wait till that first June meeting for us to approve it.
Okay, I mean, that, you know, that it's.
Could we approve some amount of money to get started today?
How much?
I don't know. How much is enough to get started, do you think, Jerry? I mean, I know we're just ballparking.
I mean, I'm really ballparking. Maybe between $4,000 and $5,000.
For both of them or one?
I really don't know, Dusty.
I gotcha.
I mean, I really,
Would that be enough to get you to June?
yeah, I would say,
Can we bridge, can we commit a little bit enough to get started so the whole project's not held up for another month?
yeah, I mean, at least, so one of the things, in addition to the lumber, several companies make the, like, basically the feet that you would put on the bottom of the structure to account for, it's kind of like the little knobs that are on the bottom of table legs sometimes. So if your floor is uneven, you can just screw or unscrew. So it's that kind of situationally larger that allows you to account for the curb as well as the slope of the road, so that you're not making so many angles in your, and arches in your lumber cuts. So like those things could be purchased, probably the decking could get started. You know, certainly some portion of things could move forward with, you know, some initial amount of money. And, you know, we'll just do what we can and provide an update as much as possible, as soon as possible. So could we agree to, you know, a $4,000 cap and spending between now and the next meeting, and certainly keep the DDA informed on what's happening?
So moved.
There's been a motion for 4,000 to allocate towards the parklets. Is there support?
I'll support.
There's support by Brad. All right, let's go slow down here. And is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, I see that Commissioner Mary Roberts has her virtual hand up. Wasn't sure if that was in relation to this matter, or if she had any input on this.
It was. I wasn't sure when I was, if it was ready for comment on the parklets, which I'm in favor of, and I brought this up once before, but we, as the commission, allowed a 15-minute loading unloading zone in front of Challoner's area in Farber. And I just want to make sure I heard where the parklets are going to go. Is one going to go in front of there, or is it, and do we need, if so, are we going to need to move that parking, the 15-minute parking sign?
I'm so sorry, Mary. I did talk with the ownership of Challoner's, and they would prefer the parklet to be in place. I did not follow up with management at Challoner's, so I need to do that and find out, make sure that they are satisfied with that. We certainly will want to make sure that they're happy with the placement.
Yeah.
Jerry, because I also know that's not just a loading zone for them, it's also for Copper House Coffee, and they did express concern to me as well recently, that Challoner's and them, that is literally their only way to load. They don't have a back at all. So they have to have a way to load, and that's why they need that 15-minute loading area when they get deliveries. So I know that is a concern. They're fine. When I talked to the Cottons, they just said as long as they can still keep at least, like there's 2 spots I do believe that have that right now. Even if it has to get shifted down, they're fine with the parklet. It's just that they need to make sure they have a spot and Challoner's have a spot, because a lot of times they come together at the same time, or right real close to the same times. So
Yep.
just as another, because they did express that concern to me as well.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yep.
If you could take a look at that and make sure that we've got the correct signage, I'd appreciate it.
Yep, I sure will do that. Thank you very
All
much.
right.
for the reminder.
Thanks. And I have to run, but thank you for the DDA meeting or thing at Farber's and the one for the city. We had a blast. So,
Great. Thanks so much. It was good to see you.
yep.
All right. So we're in discussion still. Let me see if I can share my agenda still. All right. Discussion, any further discussion on that? All right, all those in favor of allocating $4,000 to the parklets at this time, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. All right, great work. I know Jerry took off, but thank you for the committee on that and for the city and for everybody that spent time on that. That was a great collaboration and the way we like to see things done down here. So that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And so let's move back to Brad for a second. I'm going to try to put the numbers on the board and see if we can get a financial report entered into the record. So what would you like to start with, revenue or the balance sheet?
You could start with the revenue one. That's fine. We haven't had any significant changes since last month. We are actually, our property taxes that we've taken in this year are just a little bit, 6% more than last year. So that's always a good thing, seeing that. And hopefully that'll continue on as, every years go on, and hopefully property taxes keep going up as we see improvements downtown. I noticed that we do have about $2,900 now in that private donations line item, which I believe was for the sculptures. So that's, not quite up to that 5,000 that we were getting from those grants. But at least it's a nice chunk of that sculpture money. Other than that, there's really nothing else going on there. Few line items that were left over from the old economic developer, Chris's position are gone off our budget now, which is nice because they were kind of hanging around there for a while. So it's a little bit simpler. Other than that, we basically were on track this year for in the neighborhood of $32,000 of surplus. That we don't have anything slated for that to be spent. So that's a ballpark or so. But if you go over to the balance sheets, we do have a few commitments that are yet to be paid out for the rest of the year. So the full balances there aren't actually what we have available to us, but we do have in the neighborhood of $200,000 in the bank between the two accounts that we have. So that should be about it for this one.
Excellent. Any questions for Brad on the financial report? All right, Brad, thank you for all your work on this. I appreciate it. And we continue to get strong so that we can make our way towards Main Street. So I appreciate all your work.
Yep, no problem.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the financial report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so I think that was Meredith and Dave, correct? All right, any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. All right, let the financial report put in the record for unanimous vote. And thank you again, Brett. All right, let's go back to the agenda real quick. Nope, I've just lost all my sharing. And here we are. All right, so that'll bring us to Kevin Iant, which it sounds like, we got a little update from Brad. Kevin, can you give us an update on your Midwest Sculpture Initiative?
Not a whole lot of update, mostly just that there have been a few donations that I'm aware of. Maybe a couple that I'm not, given the balance there, but that all seems to be going well. We do still have a date of May 18th is when he's expecting to do the sculpture change out. I should get with him to find out exactly what the funding period dates look like, though. I'm not sure when we're expected to pay that balance.
So I just want to remind us from where we were with this. At one time, we were receiving a $5,000 gift. I think it was Stubnitz or one of the organizations like that was giving it to us in a number of years to help supplement. And there was also 5,000 coming from, was it 10,000 altogether?
It's 10,000 altogether, yes.
Yeah. So it really was just passing through the DDA budget. We had never allocated, Brad, you can confirm this, we never allocated money towards this project. It was always covered. And as we have this fundraising initiative, my mind thinks, do you backdrop that? Do we backdrop it, or do we leave it on the, the pressure of that committee to raise all the funds? So I'd like to open that up for discussion, because as I do believe downtown art is important. I know we put a couple of our DDA members on the selection committee. So I'd really want to see how people feel, because if they don't get to 5,000 and can't cover that, where do we stand?
I would just like to mention that in a couple of the previous years is that the actual cost ended up being more than 5,000. So it was closer to $6,800 after the installation and removal fees and all that stuff. And so I just, it's the number is probably closer to that, is what we can kind of expect. Yeah.
11,800, what it would be total.
Yeah.
Is where it came in. And I know that when I was first looking at these budgets, we were seeing that, but we couldn't understand if it was actually coming through our budget and it was costing us, but
Yeah, it was costing. We did end up paying the remaining balance, after the city did the 5, we did the 5, and then there was leftover. They just paid it out of our budget.
that was back then. So with that said, I don't want to discourage this movement on this front. Also, though, we have never come to the point where we said we would fill that gap. And so I do want to see this, see everybody's opinion on this, or anybody's opinion.
The question is whether the DDA would or should commit to covering any difference between the 5,000 from the city and what's not met with the fundraising goal.
I think that's exactly right.
Okay.
Chair, I think if we do it, we should do it this year, and it should be a one-off. I don't think we should set a precedent for future.
So Tim, I guess I'd ask the question of you and the group that was putting this together. So if you have you thought about what you would request if you fell short on the fundraising effort, and seeing that it's coming up on May 18th and that the change out, that means you're going to incur the expense regardless. So I want to help. So don't take it as a negative, but just what do you foresee there?
Was that meant for me, Dusty?
Yes, Tim. Yes.
That's Kevin.
Kevin, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I knew
I'm
what you
sorry.
meant.
I probably looked at the screen.
Yeah, so it hadn't been discussed at length. It hadn't been discussed at length. So, I know Ken does look at this as a unique situation. We kind of got thrust into this with all the COVID stuff going on and everything else. So planning was short. So Ken did say, he'd be working with us as best he could, which, likely means, when funds get paid, might be a little bit flexible. So I will circle back with him and see, maybe try and get a better idea of what exactly the costs are going to turn out to be. Hopefully by next month, we'll see exactly where we're going to end up with funding, and maybe that would be a better time to discuss whether or not the DDA is going to be asked to kick in any funds towards the project.
Yeah, so I guess the thing I would give as a recommendation is that if you talk to Ken, that if we're at 2,900 or 2,600 or whatever it was that Brad said that is allocated into that fund, and the 5,000, so that takes us to $7,600, $8,000. Maybe he keeps out one piece art or two to keep it under budget, something of that nature. Because it seems a little bit after the fact if we're going to get to the next meeting and say, well, now we're short and we need you guys to fill the gap. And I don't think that's the way to do it either. But that's my
Absolutely.
opinion. Understood.
Absolutely.
All right.
That would be my recommendation too, would just be to prioritize the locations of these things, and then whatever funds get raised, you put them there first, and then if there's one that doesn't get filled in that year, then so be it.
Yeah, excellent. Anybody have any issues with that? Or other comments? Kevin.
Nope. And then just real quick, just moving forward then, I agree with Mark. I think, we should take this, do this as a one-time thing. And, in upcoming years, we do this, beforehand and actually say whether or not we're going to commit to, taking care of any shortfalls that might come up in, in outside funding.
superb. Yeah, I think some forward planning on this. COVID's caused a lot of havoc, so I'm not, and no blame to anybody, but I think we definitely need to make this part of our beautification committee. And this is a big part of it. And so the question is to get that started early. So Kevin, thank you for your work on this. Not Tim.
Yeah.
Did that. No idea. All right. Any more discussion on that? All right, Emily, do you want to share your screen? Can we make her co-host? Do you have something to show us?
Yes, I just have the social analytic reports for April.
Michelle, can you give her a chance there?
Should be all set.
All right.
But you might have to stop screen sharing, Dusty.
Oh, I'm going to have to stop sharing. You're right. Boom.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So these are just the analytic reports that I generated through our social media accounts, being Instagram and Facebook. This is our Instagram follower breakdown. They are separate because the platforms, even though they're kind of integrated, they organize their reporting very different, and it's just easier to show you platform by platform. So this is our follower breakdown for Instagram. You can see that we're growing. We didn't have an Instagram until like January or December of this year. So these numbers will continue to grow. These are just some demographics for you, some of the top locations where we're receiving activity and some of the age ranges and a gender report. And then the most active times, it's kind of irrelevant now. The more that we generate content, the more that will change and grow. But these demographics will help with the future shaping of strategic plans. They give us a baseline to go off of, and then we can report for the annual report. And I can put that together as well. Here's the accounts that were reached. I normally focus on the total number of impressions. That's anyone that interacted with the post. So whether they saw that we posted something about the Dara district and then they slid on the other pictures that were included in that post, or whether it resulted in a website tap or a profile visit. That's kind of that number. And then this is for Facebook. It captures analytics very differently. So these were our most engaging posts for the last 30 days or the last 28 days. You can see the reach and the engagements. Kind of gives you like, out of all these people reached, this is how many people stopped and looked at it or went to our post or went to our website or went to our profile. This is just a general capture of total post reach, total post engagements, and then we had 13 new page likes. So we're drawing a little bit of new traffic to the Facebook page. And in total, this was our page reach and our page views for the last 28 days. All of the green means that we are growing. So that means it was up by 42 in the last 28 days. So like I said, this helps give us a baseline for future months and then for future strategic reports. And I know that this is part of the Main Street.
Awesome.
That's really the only update I have. And just for reference, the website is the city website that I currently have linked. In the future, that's always able to change. So
excellent. All right. Well, I would have never been able to do this, but I'm going to guess most of you won't. So Emily, thank you for all your great work on this. We appreciate it. And we appreciate our partnership with Visit Lenawee too, because they share resources with us, and I can't thank you enough for being on top of all this. So thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Any questions for Emily on that?
Emily?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the new Dara rack card? Are you able to share that at all?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to talk about it, but I know I didn't email it over to Dusty. I just wanted to show the rest of the board the new rack cards. And I'll be distributing those out this weekend to the downtown businesses.
Sorry, give me 1 second.
While she's looking for that, obviously I worked with Emily and Visit Lenawee, and then Haley Rising at Rising Designs, and we manufactured a new rack card that, like I said, I'll be distributing. They are a lot smaller, a lot thinner, better than the 8.5 by 11s. They're about a 3.5 by 7.5 inch card with the similar logos that we had on it before, and a similar design. It's just a little thinner, and it's just easier to be displayed at the businesses in the downtown area.
Can you see the map on my screen?
Yeah. Do you have the
Okay.
front side too?
I do.
Okay.
Can you see that as well?
Not yet.
You can't see that?
You can see the map still.
Okay. Sorry.
That's all right. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
It
And that
did
does
get-
have
or
the,
it has the logo at the bottom. I can't find that current version. I'm sorry. It's somewhere in
that's
the
okay. Okay. But like I said, I'll be getting these out, and thanks to Emily and Visit Lenawee and her team for helping me with this. I know it's been a little delayed on my part, but like I said, I'll be getting these out this weekend. And then once we get down to board member comments, I do have a couple things to bring up.
All right. Excellent.
Great work, Emily and David.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Oops. Are we seeing the agenda? Oh, you are. Excellent. Any other questions for Emily? All right. So I didn't talk to Margaret about this, but I went ahead and realized that we have to do this. But the annual meeting is for our next meeting. It's the June meeting. So we're back on sequence. We were off last year. If you remember, I was a little late on that one. I'll be calling each of the officers, see if they want to still make their commitment as where we're at. So I actually bagged the officers to continue their work. And I do believe we're going to have an open seat or two as we walk into the next month. So we're looking, we'll probably open it up for some applications here after this meeting, if it's all right for you, with you as a board, to open up the application process for the next 25 days or so, or maybe 20, because we have to do in our process interview. I know we have one slot open, and as we work towards that, I would like to have that all handled in the next meeting, if it's all right with everyone.
You said we have one open seat right now, Dusty?
I understand one open seat at the moment. Any concern there?
Dusty, are they applying to you?
They apply. I'll talk to Michelle right after we get out of the meeting. We put it up on the board on the city website. And then people pick that application up for any office that we apply for and ask all those questions. They submit them back to the city as opposed to the information. Michelle sends them right to me, and then we contact them for interview.
So the first point of contact will be that page on the city website for any potential applicants.
That's absolutely right.
All right.
We should probably loop that in with our social media too, once it's posted.
I was just going to ask that. Is that something that you want shared, at least through Facebook?
Yeah, and the key is that everybody knows what the prerequisites are, from downtown business owners, downtown businesses, residents, and the at-large. So I will try to clarify what position will be open in that front. Does that make sense? Because if we need a resident, we need a resident. If we need a business owner, because of the bylaws. So I'll clarify that with each of you.
And Michelle and Dusty, can you let me know when that information is up? I have a very strong potential candidate in mind.
Got it.
Yep, and we do post it on social media as well, Emily, on the city's page, so you can also pull it from there. And the applications come through my office, but then they also go to the mayor because technically it's her.
Yes.
But the DDA makes, I think the way you've done it in the past is you make a recommendation to the mayor who then makes her recommendation to the commission and we have a resolution, so.
Thank you, Michelle. That's absolutely right. And I'm sorry, Mayor, I should have made that clear, but it's at the prerogative of the mayor to appoint. That's why she's part of the interview committee. All right. So moving with nothing more on that, we'll move forward. And as you remember on those meetings, we do our regular meeting and then right after I shut it down, then we start the annual meeting and then we finish that. It doesn't take long, but it's still the second part. All right. Now we're moving to the fundraising committee. To tell you the truth, Jerry and I and the fundraising committee had been working together pretty diligently. Last month, it got a little hectic as far as where we needed to be. We're working on that finalized brochure, Drake. I know that you've been working on that, but we have not went out on the silent phase and started asking, but I expect to start doing that right after this meeting. So Drake, do you have a copy of what we had last time?
Yes, sir. Do you want to see it? For
Yes.
sake of time here, it's the same thing we saw last time.
Okay. Yeah, so nothing much different there. Michelle, if you let him share, we'll just look it up real quick one more time. We have all of our names and everything. We just need to get it started, and it needs to start right away. So apologize, we didn't get out there and bang the drum as of yet, but this was our Main Street program. Everybody can see that?
All right, can we all see that?
Yes.
All right. So we have a front page, always important. Right here, it's just a brief paragraph describing why we're asking people for money. And a few top-level items on what we're looking to do with those resources, what we're looking to accomplish. And we went around and we solicited some positive comments from various people involved with our downtown who were very helpful. And I just bolded some top level items there to make it easy for us to skim this. And one more. And all these photos, by the way, were sourced from the archival wizardry of Emily Rebar. So thanks to her for that. And this is just our final ask page here. All of this is subject to modification, easy to make changes if we want them. And I'm happy to send this out to any of you who would like to take a closer look as well, because I know we're a bit limited on time here.
Yeah, so thank you, Drake. I will be calling a fundraising committee meeting. Should have had one between now and last meeting. It just didn't get done. So I will call it together and we'll start going out and making our formal ask. So again, thank you for that work, Drake. Any discussion on that?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I know you guys were talking about trying to figure out the online giving aspect of this.
Yes.
And I know there was some struggles there. Obviously, the Blues and Brews group is a 501c3 right now, and we are still operating. I know we're having issues with trying to figure out the fundraising aspect of transitioning that online giving. We could use the Blues and Brews account for that.
Yes, please.
So Brad and I talked about this the other day, and all I have to do is just get support from my organization to a formal, acknowledgement and a support from them, and then we could pretty much transition the Blues and Brews funds over to the DDA, and we could use our financial institutions to start that online support.
Did you see any concern there? So one of the things that we're looking at when we look for a 501c3 donation is that they can get the 50% or 30% reduction as a charitable contribution. And
Yes,
that's
that
what
should-
was great. But passing it along to the public body, does it cause any concern for you as a 501c3?
For us,
Yes.
I don't think so, not for a nonprofit. I mean, I would have to talk to an accountant about that, but basically what we're gonna be doing, obviously, is the Blues and Brews is gonna be donating all that money over to the DDA, part of the Main Street program anyway. It's roughly about $10,000. So, and if we need to get this online giving going, I mean, I'd just rather we can open up our accounts. We can change the Blues and Brews organization into the Main Street program. And, you know, we can just transition the funds that way. And then that way we can have access to funds a little quicker as well as an organization.
All right. Excellent. Anybody have an issue with that or concern? David, you're very generous. I really appreciate it. I remember us talking about this a long time back, and for you to do such a great job with the Blues and Brews and then to think about it in a bigger picture and be committed to the Main Street process, I can't thank you enough. It is a great commitment. It's great inertia for us, and it'll bode well when we go to application, you know, as we get there. So really appreciate it.
Yep. So
All right.
I'll get the vote from my board and then have that ready by next meeting. And that way we can, you know, Brad and Drake can get that online giving porthole set up. So when we go do the ask, we have that set up and ready to go.
Excellent. In the meantime, we'll just go out and get pledges as well.
Yep.
Instead of cash flow.
Yep.
And then they can have them make their commitments in June.
Yep.
To make their donations. Appreciate it.
You could definitely collect money with checks made out to the city of Adrian. I'm sure that would work too. In the meantime, it's more or less just for those online gives. I can't set up accounts without, you know, some sort of tax ID, and then, you know, I totally understand the city doesn't want to use that, you know, let us use that one. So not a problem. So we just need something to be able to collect funds.
Awesome. Any other questions? All right, we'll get the committee together. We'll hammer it out. We're going to make some big things happen between now and next meeting. And again, the application for Main Street is due July 31st. So we have just a little bit more time, but I think we'll do great between now and then. All right, moving on to our hiring of the Main Street director. So a lot of work that I was thinking that, you know, I have to admit, I'm not the best writer in the world. So I went back to our job description, and I was trying to work through it to see if I could create one that was going to work well to present to the four organizations that Lee Young from Main Street, I'm sorry, I had it up here. I have there it is. Is that the job description? All right, so this is long. This was quite long. And what I did is when I hit MML, they say, okay, you got to do 250 words or less. And then when you hit another website, and I have them all up here, but I'm not going to show them to you, they'll charge you by the character. So I got to, if I wasn't a member of and I think that was one of them, it was like $300 something, but if I was a member of MML, it was half the price. And so I didn't get a chance to talk to you, Greg or Michelle or whatever, to see if we can work way of being part of the membership and how we get that pricing. But I did condense this down to a lot less words by taking out some of it. And this was because Heather Lasky, who is the Human Resource Director at the city, spent time with me and really talked about it. And I can't thank her enough for getting us to this stage. We had posted it at the city is going to be posting it probably today. I was trying to do it yesterday to get it done, but we've already notified the other three organizations that we're going to post the position with. But I did not get it done as fast as I hoped I would. But we're here now. Also, the budget had just gotten approved at the city, and they did have a line item for our $35,000. And so that was also, you know, a comforting thing as we could move forward as well. So Ashley and I have been working on getting this all posted. Michelle, thank you for your help, and we'll get this done within the next 24 hours. Yes, go ahead.
I was just gonna mention, so it's up on the city website.
Okay.
Do you want, with our city positions, we often post them on Facebook as a job posting, not to take applications through Facebook, but just to get the word out.
Yes.
I didn't know if you wanted to do that with this position or not, but if you do, I can put it up, or Emily could put it up as a posting on the DDA page, but we do have a pretty big reach on the city page as a government page, so I don't know, or you could do it on both, just a suggestion.
Any problem with that, anyone?
Get them on both.
Hit them
Yeah,
on
if it
everything.
goes on the city page, I can just share it directly to the DDA page. I think that would be good.
And what I'll do is, same thing I do on ours, I'll put some language in there that directs them that they have to submit an application resume, to you. And people will still click the button and fill out an application that goes to us, but we don't process those. We only obviously take the hard ones. So I'll get that up and going today as well.
So
If the more eyeballs, the better. So thanks for doing that.
also, Lee sent me this right here, and we have already put the application in and paid for it. And so it had to be mailed to them actually, so they're receiving it probably today. This gives us a chance to set that up on their website as well, the Main Street nationwide, so Main Street America. So I did a little executive decision there and joined it, and it doesn't matter, it's only $150. Anyway, we'll be putting it on this too, so the reach will be far-reaching. I must admit that we need to be very patient here. Some of us have talked about that. The city has been out there looking for a community development director, and it's been difficult. It is a rough environment to be out there searching right now for new employees. There's some scarcity going on, and a lot of people are staying put and the like. So we do need to get as many eyes on this as possible and see if we can find somebody outstanding for this position. But yeah, I just want everybody aware the job market is very tight at the moment.
Mr. Chair, I can share with the group this morning that we did extend an offer to a candidate for community development director. His name is Angeline Lawrence. She goes by Angie, and she accepted our contingent offer yesterday. And so that will be on the commission's agenda for appointment next week.
All right, another Angie. All right.
Yep.
We are taking over the world. Just kidding.
All right, well, that's good news. I'm glad to hear it, and I appreciate that, and hopefully we'll have the same success and we'll bring in another great player. I do believe some of the biggest two hires we're doing right now is that community development director and this Main Street director. Those two can be superstars for us, and we need them to be. So thank you for your patience. I was trying to get it posted, David. I was trying to do it, but I've just not, I had to get this scaled down, and I kept pushing it down a little bit. So we'll get her up and running by today. All right. Excellent. All right. Where is my agenda? Did I lose it? And of course I did. There we go. Sorry. All right. So with that, we have a deadline of June 8 on those. I may extend it if we don't get enough applications, but I will move forward. As far as chair comments go, again, pretty long meeting here. I appreciate everybody's patience. Again, we're getting into the fundraising stage. There's some application work that I'm going to need to help with. We do have a lot of this that just needs to be gathered together and brought together for the application. We do have what now? So it's May, June, and July. So we're down to the 90 to 110 days or so to get that application done. So what's that? End of July. Oh yeah. So Ashley's giving me, get it done by the end of June so that we have a month to look it over. So I think she's right. So I will be contacting some of you in regards to some of the sections of this. The hardest part really is the building inventory list, and the city has a lot of information they'll be sharing with me on that. But really it's time to get started on that application full force. So I'll be looking to some of you for some help. Beyond that, we're going to move to public comment. Is there anybody in the public like to address the Downtown Development Authority?
Mr. Chairman, it's Gordon Gauss.
Hi, Gordon.
How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Wonderful. With regard to the food truck and the DDA weighing in, I've done a little bit of research, and could I urge you to contact Lori Ward at the Northville, Michigan DDA? They have a program includes food trucks that has been very successful and very beneficial for their downtown restaurants. I ran across some research that showed that actually, rather than being a detriment to the local restaurants, it actually helps increase their business, which was kind of interesting. But Lori can probably fill you in and just give you some additional background in what they've done in Northville. And I'd also point out that while the Cinco de Mayo festival last Saturday was not allowed to have a food truck, they were serving, I think, barbecue or whatever. And all afternoon, the people at the festival were going over to AmVets to get their drinks and carrying them back by the trayfuls because, it's the Dara district. So apparently they did a land office business, and you might want to talk to the other bars and restaurants downtown, because what I saw on Friday night were a lot of people using the advantage of the Dara district with waiting lines of 35 or 45 minutes in places like Sauce and others. There was a lot of bar traffic. So something to think about.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We'll contact Laura and our research and our little committee. And I think really you got to, again, take away some of the thoughts on that, as that it really is a benefit to the downtown. So other public comments? Any other DDA business before this board? New business? If not, we'll go to the board member comments. I know, David, you wanted to start there? Mute. David, you're on mute.
My bad. Anyway, in regards to the Dara district and the cups, AmVets had obviously a banner weekend. I actually supplied them with 4 cup carriers this weekend so they can carry their drinks back and forth. But obviously now they're in need of more Dara cups, and we still got to figure out invoicing for this. Obviously we still need to bill Grasshopper, and now we need to bill AmVets for these cups, and we just need to figure out what next steps to how to manage that piece.
David, you bring up a good point. It's rare. Nathan is our city, our city financial director, and one of the things that we're feeling here is that Haley Rising sends me a $55 charge for her work. I send it to Brad. We send it over to Nathan. It takes a while for things to be paid. And that's why we have this frustration without having a tax ID number, that we're not nimble with our own money and being able to act on certain things and the like. Is that correct, David? Would you agree?
Yes.
That's that. And so maybe we can sit down again, Greg and Nathan and them, and see if we can streamline some of this process. Because what it is you have an invoice right now that you could present to the city and have them pay on our behalf. But let's see if we can figure out what could streamline that. Is that all right?
Yeah, those guys don't have a problem. They just need to know how to, if
invoice.
I don't want to create an invoice. It would be Nathan having to create that invoice, or I can create it, but then it would be paid to the city right now. But I just don't want to step on anybody's toes. I just want to make sure we can streamline this appropriately.
All right. Yeah, we'll get with the city on that instead of going into it right now. And see how we trigger invoices from a DDA level.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all I had.
Thank you, David.
Yep, no worries.
Any other board member comments?
Mr. Chair, Mark here. Just a couple of really big thank yous and appreciation. First of all, the city leaders for supporting the DDA with the financial support. city staff, Michelle Dewey, Matt Tomaszowski, Jason Lawrence. I mean, the city does a wonderful job in partnering with the downtown. The downtown looks great. We're always asking the city to do something new down there, and they're always willing. And I just wanted to, it's hard to get compliments out there sometimes, but just want to just say thank you, city, for doing a wonderful job in partnering with the downtown as we move forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I had Jason Lawrence here for a little while, but he's obviously back to work. But if you guys have noticed, we got our maple trees coming in, and probably most of them are in, but I didn't get an update from him, but it's happening. Matt's probably not still here, but everybody's seen the maple trees going.
Yep.
So cool stuff. Any other board comments?
Just a quick one from me. I just wanted to mention June 7, start watching the paint get stripped off my building. Should be fun to watch.
Yeah, and Brad, you can't thank you enough. Make an investment in our downtown. It's a beautiful historic building, and thank you for putting your money where your mouth is. Awesome stuff. Any other board comments? All right, thank you all for being at this meeting. Keep our energy high and our positivity high, and we'll see what we can accomplish by next meeting. And thank you all for being here. We'll talk to you all soon.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.